What's up, guys? Welcome back to another True Story with Buck. If you like the thumbnail for this video, know this. It's 100% true. That actually happened. I know. It's crazy. Um, the true story is even crazier. But yeah, literally, this actually happened. So I have promised, since I made that one true story that happened, just something on the fly, and it kind of went a little viral. I told you guys, I said, I promise I'm going to come back and share all the stories I have now, because I see that people like true stories, especially like heartwarming true stories that actually happen. So yeah, here goes. Give you the first one that now, like, you guys have made me think. I've had to go back in my brain. Like I say, I'm 50 years old. I got a ton of stories because I've lived my life like a cowboy. So I've been out there and I've seen and done it all. Yeah. And if you like true stories that are absolutely crazy, like literally crazy out there where it's stuff you would never do, you found the right guy, because I got some good ones. I'll go into that just a little bit at the end of this video and let you know what's coming up, what I've got in my mind. Like, I've been thinking back, like I say, on all these things that have happened in my life, and it's like, oh man, I can share some gold with you guys, literally, so this first story, like I say, the thumbnail 100% accurate. This story starts in the early 90s in Alberta, Canada. Now, there was actually two of us, and yes, there was one big knife sitting on the side of the road hitchhiking. True story, 100%. Grandma picked us up. Now, the story behind the big knife is nothing scary at all, other than it's a big scary knife. But what happened was, we were sitting on the side of the road, and I had told my brother, put that down. I told my brother, I said, you really got to have a sign that says Ontario. Like, that's where we were going. So you need to have a sign when you're hitchhiking back in those days, just telling people where you're going. So as they're driving by, they see, well, okay, that guy's going to Ontario. It helps. It used to help. I don't think people really hitchhike much anymore. It's a lost art. But and I might be wrong. Maybe there's places where people do, right? So on this day, I had told him about this sign. So we make this sign that says Ontario, and he's going to hang this sign. He's got his bag on him, so he's going to hang the sign on the bag, so while we're hitchhiking, right, people can actually see the sign on the bag, not our duffel bag, that says Ontario, so they know where we're going. He's sitting there. Once again, I got to bring this back up for this part of the story. He's sitting there, he's got the sign made, and he's cutting a piece of string to tie this onto his bag with nothing short of a big hunting knife. That's what he had. We didn't have a little pocket knife on us. We had something like this. This isn't the actual knife, but we had something like that. So he's sitting there cutting this piece of string, right? And I've still got my thumb out as cars are going by on the Trans-Canada. I'm thinking, well, I'm looking over at my brother doing this, and I'm thinking, well, as long as he's got that knife out, we ain't getting picked up. Wrong. Grandma pulls right over, right? And right away, I'm like, get the fuck out of here, right? Like, no way that somebody's picking us up and he's sitting there with that big giant knife, eh? Jump in, boys, where you headed? You guys are going to Ontario. She's like, I'm almost going to Ontario. We're way back in Alberta. We were with this girl that day for 12 to 15 hours in her car. Nicest lady I'd ever met. One of the first things that day that she did, out of kindness, and it kind of worked both ways, she decided to stop for lunch. She's like, you guys hungry? We're like, no, we're okay. Of course, we got no money on us, right? We're starving to death, literally starving. But we're like, no, we're okay. We're okay, And she's like, I'm going to stop and get some chicken. So she stops and she buys a bucket of chicken and all the stuff that goes on the stuffed fries, the coleslaw, the gravy, everything, right? She buys this big meal. And brings it to the car. She's like, boys, eat. We're like, oh, no, we're okay, man. We're okay. We just really appreciate the ride. It's really a big help. We're just trying to get home is what we were doing, right? I guess I should have mentioned that already. But so she made us eat. And the way we were raised, like, we ate like one piece of chicken and we're like, oh, no, yeah, I couldn't possibly eat anymore. Thank you so much. We just didn't want to eat all her food, like I say. And at the end of the day, I'll skip ahead, because when we got out of her car that night, we'd been with her a long time, coming across the prairies over there in Alberta and stuff, Saskatchewan and whatnot, right? She made us take that chicken with us. She wouldn't take no for an answer, right? You're not going to argue with an old lady. You're not going to do that, no way, right? So we did. We didn't want to. We were telling her, take this for your grandkids and stuff. She was on her way to go see family. And here she is picking up two guys that are trying to get home to their family. But, so yeah, she did make us take that chicken, and we were starving to death. Absolutely. But just the way we were raised, we weren't going to take from her. We were accepting a ride, yeah, but we weren't going to take anything else from her. She's just trying to be kind, like just the way we are, you know. And so yeah, so this particular story, I'll give you guys 100 million different stories of things that I've done were nice for people that were kind of crazy stories. I have all those, but I also have a few stories like this where it's the other way around in reverse, where someone did something for me. A couple times in my life, I've seen humanity. I've seen the best side of humanity directed towards me. And I think 2 or 3 times where I was kind of left for dead, middle of nowhere. It's been women that have saved me, saved my life the most, especially the one night the one lady did save my life. She was terrified of me. She kept herself locked in her car, the window down, and I sat on the side of the road and just talked to her. I didn't even come near her. Didn't come near her car. I talked to her, and she finally said, like, after we had talked for a while, this other story this is another story for you guys someday. She finally had said to me, she asked, like, what's the reason you're actually here right now? And when I told her, she looked at me. She's like, yeah, I thought so. Get in. I'll tell you that she saved my life. And another guy died that night on that road, and her and I drove past that guy. Ambulance was never there. The cops and everybody were there picking a body up off the road. Literally, bad situation to be in, bad time, bad place. And Buck got out of it because some lady saved his life. Just, that's the side of humanity. And it's happened to me a few times, things kind of close to that. I will cover all these stories for you guys, all of them. You know what I mean? And I'll get back to the story that I just left you guys a minute ago about this grandma that picked us up. We say we're a big knife out there, right? Anyhow, yeah. I have a little trick. I'm a civilian. That's it. I work a little once in a while alongside law enforcement. I got a little trick for keeping old ladies out of jail. And I'm going to teach you that. So as a civilian, if you ever find yourself in that position, you can do the same. I have another story where I saved a man's life. And I don't know how I'm going to get someone to help me edit a video when I tell that story, because I won't be able to tell that whole story all at one time. I always break down. It's kind of like PST or whatever they call that with the military. When your friends almost die and they lose half their face, when their eyeballs hanging on your chest and they're trying to die and you won't let them, and you're going up 4 stories up a straight up little skinny ladder, coming out of ballast tanks and a big ore hauling ship. You know, that whole story, I saved him. He had kids and I wouldn't let him die. And that's a story for another time, but I won't go any farther than that right now, because it doesn't, anytime, I've told that story a few times in my life and I break down, it takes me back to it. And it's a very hard thing to deal with. It really, really is. I mean, yeah. But anyway, I will get into that story another time. And just like there's 1,000 other stories I can literally tell you guys like that are crazy but true. When you've lived the kind of life that I've lived, these things happen. So I'll get into every one of them for you. But back to the lady picking us up with the big knife story there. There's not a lot more to that now. So like I say, she had bought us this chicken. We had rode with this girl for like 15 hours that day, probably, you know. Huge help, like massive huge. That was exactly the ride we needed, right? And I remember my brother had passed out in the back of her car, and I talked to her for a long time. Hours and hours and hours I had talked to her. Now, I think she was hoping when she picked us up that we were kind of like what she was when she was younger. Because as it turned out, this lady had hitchhiked all over the world, like in different countries way back in the day, like all over. And she was telling me her stories, even jumping on and riding trains like they did in the old days. She had done it all. Her and one of her girlfriends, believe it or not, 2 women had done this. So this was when she was younger, like the age that I was at, because I was still in my 20s when this happened. And this lady was probably in her 60s, late 60s, you know, when I met her. So back when she was in her 20s, she had done these kind of things. She was a transient person that had traveled all over. And when she picked us up, she's thinking, here's a couple more of my boys from the old days. I'm going to grab them. We weren't quite traveling the world. We were just heading home from Alberta. Sometimes we'd go out there and work when we were younger. You know what I mean? And that's, you know, the way it was. I've went out there a few times. I'd hitchhiked out and back and forth. So I have a few stories from those times of things that have happened, including that one I was just telling you about where the lady was scared to pick me up. And after a while, that happened in British Columbia, Canada. You know what I mean? And yeah, I was being circled by a grizzly that night. At least one. Man, good thing she picked me up. So yeah, before I get too sidetracked there, don't think there's much more that I can tell you guys about that story. I never forgot that lady that picked me up, me and my brother, like I say, you know, gave us that long ride. It was amazing though that like she picked us up at that moment. She pulled over. She saw the sign. She saw the knife too, right? But she was driving by, seen the sign, seen that my brother was just working on the sign with a knife, and she's like, these guys are going to Ontario, and she just pulled over. 90% of the people in the world, especially today, if 99.9% of the people would never pick me up if I'm with another dude and I'm holding one of those. It ain't happening these days. We all know it. It ain't happening, right? But it does. Well, it did. It did happen. True story, 100%. That knife's kind of dirty. She needs to be clean. Anyway, that's pretty much the short and the tall of today's story. Thank God for that lady. You know, that was one of those times where people show you that true side of humanity. It was something that someone did that was very kind for me. You know, a little thing, just picking somebody up. But at the same time, I say that just the whole hunting knife thing makes that story kind of crazy, but it literally happened. And so yeah, I really can't remember. Like I say, I talked to the lady all day, and she told me all these stories, all these adventures she had been on, and she was an amazing lady. And kind of fell in love with that old girl that day, you know, and for the rest of my life, I will never forget her for what she did for me. Never. And for my brother, of course, too, right? But, you know, you don't forget people like that kind of touch your heart in this world, eh? So stay tuned. I've got way more. I hope you enjoyed this story. I hope you enjoy the rest of them that I have. To all the people that have subscribed to my channel because of this, because of these stories, thank you so much. You don't have any idea what that means to me. I never thought I would be able to grow a YouTube channel. Never. I'm just not a young person, you know, and it seems to be a younger person's game for the most part, a lot of it and stuff. I'm just, some of us old Gen X guys just aren't very good at this, but you guys seem to like my stories, and that's all it takes. If you like what I have to offer, then just keep doing it. That's cool. Like, I don't mind doing that at all, and I have some great stories, so look forward to telling the next one. Look forward to see you guys again. I love all of you, and thank you so much for everyone who has shown support for my other stories. This one, it all started with the story about this guy blocked my driveway. That story kind of went a little viral, and here we are. Now I've decided, okay, if you guys like that kind of thing, I'm going to give you more, but I'm going to quit wasting your time right now. Quit being a pain in the butt. So love you guys. Take it easy, and I'll be back for sure 100% with more of my workout videos, along with more of these true stories, which are pretty cool. All right. Love you guys. Have a great day.